So I've had a chance now to use the robot mower for a little while, so I thought it's time today to do a follow-up on that initial video. Pretty much on the initial video, it was just taking it out of the box and showing you how to do the mapping and using it for the first time. So today let's talk about some of my experience with it after being able to use it for a few months and get a sense of how everything works. So the main thing that I've been using it for is to mow this ryegrass area behind me. I have this set to 1 inch and set as low as it goes just because I'm using this right now as my temporary golf green. So as tight as I can get it down to the ground is what I'm doing, and 1 inch is the lowest cut that I can get on this. It's been working very well for me to do that. I just come down here usually about 4 or 5 o'clock as soon as the sun's starting to get a little less intense during the day, and I just set it up, have it just do this area, and then I'm ready to golf for the evening. So that is really nice. You know, I'm tempted all the time to bring my real mower down here and to do this because I love the look of it, but at the same time there are definitely days where I just don't have enough time at the end of the day to get this done. Being able to just forget about it, use the robot, has been very, very nice for me. I think the main question that I had personally when I started with this was how is it going to work quality of cut wise and not having quite as much suction as you would be used to with a rotary mower. So probably every maybe 4 or 5 mows or so, I've taken my zero turn over this, which also goes down to 1 inch. And basically at that point, I'm really not cutting a lot off, but I'm just using it to use the suction of it and to lift that up again before I have the robot go back and do it. Now, I have a few areas up by the house that I'm using the robot as well, which I have not done any zero turn mowing or done any other type of mower with it. Those areas though are not getting as much frequent mowing as this thing does. This is probably about every 2 days right now just because of how it's growing. Earlier in the spring it was about every day. So if you think about that and you're putting tire tracks over it and you're mowing and mowing, then that just lift every once in a while is helpful. If you're on a type of grass that's manicured as much as this is, I think that that's nice. So as I mentioned, I am using this thing to mow up by my house. This is an area that's just easy for something else to take care of and I don't have to worry about it. And this was a good test here on mainly tall fescue to see how it was going to do on those higher heights of cut. When you just glance at this from a few feet away, you're going to think it looks nice and clean. If you get down and look specifically very closely at some of the blades, I've noticed that on these taller cuts, because you're missing that suction of the rotary mower, it does miss a few blades here and there. It's not personally anything that I think you notice visually unless you really go down and look for it. But for those of you who are wondering if you wanted a tall version, you want to get up to 4 inches or something, and you're mowing it consistently with those tire tracks and you don't have a lot of suction, I'm not sure in that scenario if that would start to look messy over time and maybe not cut as great. But for me, only mowing this probably, like I said, 2 times a week or so, I haven't noticed any issues with that. You just will see a few stragglers here and there, which to me is acceptable considering what I want it to do and what my expectations are, but maybe that will be different for you. Overall cut quality, I'm not sure how many hours I have in on this thing now, but I did switch over the blades a couple days ago. They can be flipped over and changed, or you can just change them out completely. They kind of look like a little razor blade. They look very good overall and was making it through some of the hardest cut during that springtime when the stocky plants are there. Those are hard to cut for any machine. I did not have any issues cutting through those with this thing. Right now with the way the grass is, those stocky pieces are gone for the most part. So right now I don't know exactly how long. I think they say about 50 hours, but with my type of grass and how manicured I want, I probably would flip them over before that point, me personally, but that's kind of where we're at on the blades, working well. I've also been having it mow a few other plots down here. I have a mono stand of bluegrass that's kept at about 1.2, 1.4, somewhere in there, so that has been maintaining that for me. Also the ryegrass that's next to the driveway area, I've been using it over here as well, and there's a pretty decent slope to this. No issues with the slope or anything like that, which I showed in the initial video, but if you were wondering, you know, long term on that, everything's been working perfectly. And I'm able to just set it on all these sections and let it go. Battery life on it, I don't know exactly how long it goes because I'm using it on this 2,000 square foot plot here. Then usually it charges and then I'll be mowing my other areas and then it charges. So as far as one long session, I'm not exactly sure how long it goes, but I did have it one time go up and mow about 1/4 of the field. So that's 60,000 square feet. So I mowed probably about 1/4 of it, and it did need to charge once, but the kind of the cool thing is it figures out when it needs to do that, drives down to the charger, and then it will go back up and start exactly where it left off. So if you do have larger areas, I definitely think it would work, but it will take some time because it does need to come back and charge and then go back to the location. So even though it might say, you know, this can do 1.5 acres, I definitely think it probably would take pretty much all day to do that by the time that you have to charge and do all that stuff. But it just depends too on how your terrain is and how it's going to have to drive back and do all that. As far as any issues that I've experienced, I mentioned in the initial video that they're constantly working on software, so there's little things here and there that I've experienced, but as I mentioned in that same video, I didn't have anything where I couldn't get it to do what I wanted it to do. Sometimes I just restart the machine or I close the app and go back into it, but it doesn't happen for me very consistently. I think that because I'm out in such an open area, I actually have the RTK all the way up at the house, so it's roughly about 900 feet from where I'm standing right now. That's out in an open area. This thing is in an open area and I haven't had any issues, but I do have a friend that got one of these, has a very, very shaded yard, lots of old trees, and in a tighter neighborhood. He was having some issues with it not getting signal some of the time and doing some erratic things. So I think that it really depends on your location. For me, this is a perfect scenario, having all this open space. Maybe in a very tight neighborhood with shade might be something to consider looking at some of the reviews of that to see if you can get a sense of whether it will work best for you or not. There's a couple things that I wish it would do right now. I'm still having a slight issue with just a little bit of wavy lines, which software-wise they should be able to fix that. The other thing is when it's going plot to plot as far as the channel goes, I would love for it to just drive around the outside of the plot instead of going straight to the next location, because if you're wanting your stripes to look decent, then all of a sudden you got a line right through here that looks like it just decided to drive right through there. But that's actually usually when it's going back to the charger or channel to channel. So I would definitely love if it would drive around the outside, maintain those stripes. But I'm very surprised how the stripes look, especially here on ryegrass. Definitely from up on the hill when you're hitting down here to this when you're playing golf. Looks great, the stripes look great, so overall I'm very pleased with how it's been working out for me. So I think if you're someone who has a busy schedule and you need something to help you out to get more consistent mowing done, these things work fantastic for that. Or if you're in my situation where you love mowing, but there's just certain times when you can't get to everything and it's nice to have a little extra help, this works perfectly for that too. So just wanted to give you an update a few months into this on my experience personally. So hope that was some good info for you today if you're considering one of these. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.